2, 1.
Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission study session for Monday, October 18th, 2021. I'd like to thank the commissioners for your time and service this evening. We'll jump right into the agenda with study session item A1, discuss regular agenda items. That will take us over to C1, consider approval of the attendance matrix for the Planning and Zoning Commission as presented and take appropriate action. Any comments, concerns, corrections to the attendance matrix? All right. Very good. That'll take us to C2, consider approval of the September 13th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission minutes and take appropriate action. Any changes, questions, comments on the minutes?
Chairman, if I may, I just have one comment to add. In response to the Commission's request, we tried to make more in a summary format minutes and also tried to capture staff responses to the Commission's questions. So I wanted you guys to take a look at it and let us know if this format works better than what we had before, or if you would like us to make any changes on the format.
Anyone have comments on the format? Don't seem to flow well, my recollection of it. We like it. Thank you. Item C3, consider the request for a detailed site plan amendment for a college, including but not limited to construction of a new building and renovation of an existing building for an early college center on a 191.94 acre site located at 3939 Valley View Lane, and take appropriate action.
And Chairman, if I may, because of my employment at Dallas College, if there is any discussion, I will recuse myself aside for
Super.
this portion.
All right.
We expected you to give us the inside scoop.
Does anyone have any questions, discussion items on this?
No.
I think we're good.
Okay.
And that takes us to D1, conduct a public hearing and consider the request to rezone approximately 3.43 acres tract of land located at 12877 Josie Lane, generally west of the intersection of Valley View Lane and Josie Lane, and on the south side of Valley View Lane from Plan Development District Number 8, Local Retail 1 zoning district to Plan Development District Number 105 zoning district, including creation of the Plan Development District Number PD 105 standards to allow, including but not limited to, one family attached townhome residential development as a permitted use and establish related development standards and take appropriate action. So, this will be the exciting case of the night.
Yes.
I think everyone should have in front of them the letter of support or favor from Houston Goodspeed. And I think Sarup is obviously the one who's presenting this case. Sarupa, why don't you just give us an overview, if you don't mind?
So this is the, do you want me to pull the PowerPoint maybe? That would help. This is the old Chase Bank building behind the commercial strip center at the Four Corners, so southwest quadrant of the Four Corners development. And the developer, ECM, they're building a 42-unit townhome product. It's urban-style townhome development. So let
It's
me-
who? Who is it?
ECM is the developer. Let me open. So I'm not going to go through the whole presentation, just generally broad overview. This green shaded area, all of these are included as the subject property on the map as well as for notification purposes, because the same property owner owns this property as well as these two lots. And as you can see in this yellow boundary, that's the project outline. So the developer is also going to get a roughly 52 feet wide mutual access and fire lane easement from the owner, and that's gonna be part of this PD or rezoning request. So we had to include all of them, but technically the project limit is this yellow boundary polygon area. So 42-unit townhome, two-story townhome buildings, each will have two-car attached garage. This new access drive that they are constructing, starting from Valley View, it's gonna be named Red Hawk Drive. They're gonna have 16 on-street parking spaces for guests. This is their conceptual site plan. So these units that are adjacent to the residential single-family homes, they are facing this interior Muse courtyards, and also their garage access are through these courts, these dead-end courts. And all these buildings, these 7 down here are 3-unit townhome buildings, whereas the ones that are facing Red Hawk Drive are mostly 4-unit townhome buildings, except this building 4, which is 5-unit. This landscape plan shows a better depiction in terms of how much landscaping they are proposing, as well as how this acts as the entryway to the project. That's the on-street parking. They're taking out a single row of commercial parking in this area from the strip center parking lot, and incorporating that into this drive. So it's a 8 feet wide median. The applicant will be present here tonight with a presentation. They have some more renderings to show you how the buildings are gonna look. This is what I have, the black and white elevations, and also a rendering that they provided as part of the application. So the way the site is laid out, they were very cognizant with, they worked with staff even before submission was formally made, working with us on how the layout is gonna work. We made sure that the homes along the southern side, or actually if you go by true geographic north, that's the west side, these units are not necessarily facing or backing out to the residential homes. They're also proposing a board-on-board 8-foot tall cedar wood fence for privacy. So this is gonna minimize any kind of impact on the residential neighborhoods on Wilmington that are west of this project. So we have received 3 communication or letters of support for this project. One was received and included in your packet, or you guys were given a copy. I received a verbal phone call from the president of the Tara Place HOA, who was in favor, and of course the owner of the strip center as well as this property, Mr. Clausen, he called me today. He's also in favor. So if you have any question,
No opposition?
I haven't heard any opposition so far.
Super.
So on the landscaping, I know that as I travel around Farmers Branch, a lot of times, we probably haven't said anything about what they're planting up next to the buildings, like live oaks, come on. And so I'm not looking to see what these are, but I think we need to look more carefully to get a tree that is a size that will not overpower that, or they have to cut back, or they have to trim to an ungodly shape once they get those in there. Because we've had some, well, over in the one right there by the IRS, where they're getting ready to build on the south side, they're at, cannot remember the name of it.
Blue Lake.
So the lakes, yeah. They've got trees that are live oaks planted right up, you know, in those little front yards. So we need to do a better job on helping them decide on a good planting tree. If they're gonna do a tree there, let's pare it down. And so I'm getting, actually, I'm just now thinking about this as I see this layout here. So I'm gonna look and see what that is. Can we make those kind of suggestions?
Yes, we can.
I'm hoping that, so I'm hoping it isn't a Shumard or a live oak or that's gonna be, you know, 80 feet or 100 feet tall and live 150 years, which it won't, but.
I think we have to concentrate on the ones that are closer to the building, as you're referring to,
That's
like
the
this,
one
this
I'm talking
bulb
about,
outs.
yeah. They plant
And
them right up in the, almost the yards, and it's just insane to do.
these are, I believe, cedar elms, if I'm reading it right, CE.
Is that an existing cedar elm?
No,
No,
none
there's
of,
nothing
these
there.
are all
I think-
new. These are all new. These are existing. the one you see along the Kestrel Place, which is south of this project. That's the boundary of Tara Place. So these are existing trees, the live oak, the elms, but these are all new trees.
So if that's a cedar elm right up there, it's gonna lose its leaves for one thing, in the winter time, so it's not an evergreen that's right up there. But that is a large tree. I mean, so it's a spreading tree, it's not a, a better shape, so maybe, I'm gonna look here quickly and see. Actually, until I looked at this, it didn't hit me that I promised myself I would say something next time.
Sure.
Came up, but we didn't plant trees that look good now in a 30-gallon pot, but it's not gonna look good in 3 years. We're gonna have to cut it back. They are gonna have to cut it
So
back.
I went by there yesterday and again today, and there are some rather large trees there. I don't know,
By where?
kind of an oak. I took some pictures. I don't know if you can determine the type of,
If I see the leaves, I can tell you
I
what it is.
don't believe they are gonna be able to preserve those.
I don't know if they're
I think-
keeping those or,
Probably
let
can't.
me show you, see if you can tell from this. They have about 1, 2, 3, there's about 5 of them that run down here. I don't know.
They probably, by the
zoom in.
time construction finishes,
I don't know if you can see close enough or not.
I'd truly have to go look at the.
So is the
structure
intent to
on it.
remove all those existing trees there and then replace with something new?
Yes, because that's their construction area, so they are gonna remove all the ones that you probably saw while you drove on that existing drive. The only ones they're preserving are along this area, where my cursor is. On south.
And Sarupa, as I understand it, all the concrete is removed and replaced?
Yes.
Concrete
It's all gonna
meaning-
be all new
So
construction.
basically, the entire pad, if you look at
Is
that
gone.
shape, I'm surprised they can even keep the trees on the south side.
I think-
The entire thing's gonna go away, so obviously the Chase building is demolished, but also all of the concrete that's there that is in various, shapes and ages or whatever, that's right now a parking lot, it's gonna become a street, ultimately, so all that goes away.
I noticed that there's a masonry wall on this west side of the property that goes all the way down. It looked like it was in pretty good condition, and it sounds like they're proposing to demolish that and
west-
replace with
Is
a,
it west side or south? Like, are you talking about along this side?
no,
So-
the true west side.
So let's go back here. So where on this
Yes,
area?
just that, yeah, on the left side of the yellow line going up, all
This
the way
side?
up, is a
If-
masonry wall, and from what I read in here, it seems as though they want to replace that with a
With a
8-foot
cedar.
cedar fence.
Cedar fence, yes, because I believe for homeowners, that was a more desirable option rather than a masonry wall. I believe that's why.
I just thought the masonry wall would give a little more sound.
And I have to
barrier.
check with the applicant if that masonry wall is on this property or for the homeowners. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, because just to the left, as you look at this picture, just to the left is a utility easement that goes through there as well, so.
Yes.
So the address, it's 12877 Josie.
That's the
But all
current
this-
address.
Okay, all the access is coming from Valley View?
Yeah,
Well, I guess
but-
you can access around the Ace Hardware there.
Yes, but all the new townhomes will get addresses, individual addresses with
Hold
the
up on your
street
computer
names
that
that
I
they're
can enlarge
proposing.
the
So the
tracking
units that are
stuff.
facing Red Hawk are gonna be named with Red Hawk.
Right.
And the internal units are gonna be named with, what's that internal street? Raven Way.
So then so the rezoning is for all of that to potentially include townhouses if they want to demolish part of
Is
the
this
retail
running
center at
this
some
way?
point.
No, so the way we have drafted the PD ordinance, the
Here we go.
legal description only describes this yellow piece.
I see
So
what
it's
they're
not
planning
describing
here.
this whole thing. But because it's not platted as a separate lot, we had to send the notice out for the whole affected property. But for the PD 105 boundary, will be just this. So that PD is not gonna impact the existing strip center or these commercial projects.
Sure, a couple questions. I'm sorry,
Yes.
Pat. You have
No.
follow-up? You said the property owner owns all of those units, right? It's the same property owner?
When you say units, you mean the new townhome?
The three boxes you have there, those
Right,
three,
right,
those, okay.
yes.
So is he the one who's developing the property himself, or is he selling it or partnering with the developer?
Yeah, he's selling it to ECM.
Okay. When you guys were looking at this, did we restrict them to any kind of elevations?
We actually were recruiting developers for that area. The plan the developer had was storage units,
Okay.
and we were discouraging that heavily, and then low-income housing. And we were, so give us a shot, and so we went out and tried to find developers. We had one that was interested in putting in 3-story multifamily, and we felt like that was gonna get pretty significant pushback from the neighborhood behind there. Something that's taller than what the neighborhood is, and it being multifamily rather than owner occupied. So when we were talking with townhome developers, we felt like something that was more in character with the neighborhood, 2-story, owner occupied.
So I figured you were gonna say that. So this is a neighborhood that's being currently gentrified and rejuvenated, right? So to me, I was actually kind of hoping that we were gonna see the 3-story look, but owner occupied. I like the density, the footprint that's here. I just think that you look at the square footage, and Linda, you're a real estate agent, but you look at the square footage of each of these units, they're relatively small. You look at the units where, across the street here, the vintage townhomes, those are all roughly 1,900 square feet. You look at the ones-
136.
There you go.
Guess who lives there?
You look at the units that are, the Rose Garden units, those are 2,200 square feet. Nice product,
Yeah.
adjacent to 2-story homes. I know there was some pushback about, the height, the elevation differences, but, I think the only thing when I saw this and I looked at it is I wish, and I didn't know if it was us discouraging them or if it was them saying that just the numbers
This
didn't work.
particular developer, that's what they built,
The 2-story.
2-story.
Okay.
And I'm not saying they don't build 3-story anywhere else, that's what they came to us with. The 3-story, the folks that we talked to for 3-story was a multifamily developer.
And
Right.
And frankly, just, y'all have been and seen this area, this is not anything that anybody's coming to us and wanting to do.
Oh, I agree.
We
And I'm happy.
We've incentivized this project.
And I'm happy to see that this is
Yeah.
a good product, because I think that this corner definitely needs more residential to actually truly bring in an influx of the people that are actually gonna be buying this and, their economic backgrounds that they're gonna need to have to afford one of these units. I just look at some of the limitations that they're providing in terms of square footage as a negative. Not to say that they're not gonna be able to sell them, I'm sure they
Right.
will, but I think if we're trying to maintain a 2-story look, there's ways for them to do it and still have like a 3rd floor loft or something like that, to be able to add a little bit more square footage to a unit. Obviously, more square footage will result in higher
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 prices,
prices.
yeah.
So that's something I would just, I mean, I can bring it up when we talk to them downstairs.
Ask them about it philosophically, what their thoughts are on it. I think this is kind of viewed as a price point that there are people in the market looking for that doesn't exist.
What is that price point?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be around 250, 275, something like that, maybe
You know what,
3.
they never come in at that. We've
I
been
know.
told this so many
No way.
times, 250 to 350, and then they're 5.
It's all market driven, right? If you come in saying it's gonna be one thing and you can sell it for more, you're gonna sell it for more.
Absolutely.
Sure.
But we're having discussions about pricing people out of this market, and that there's not options for what we call attainable housing or workforce housing. Like, you have people that teach our kids in this district, and they can't afford to live in the same community where they teach. We have firefighters that can't afford to live here, and police officers that can't afford to live here, so we're trying to find some alternatives where it's an attractive product, it's a new product, but the give and take is kind of, you're gonna be facing a vacant Salvation Army and Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
So
That
that's,
won't, the
But hopefully
the hope
this will
is that you're adding this and it
change.
changes the
This is the
dynamic of that.
catalyst.
Exactly, so,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, I do, I understand the price point, there's just no way these things are gonna sell for 250.
they will
3 years
probably,
from
once
now.
they come on the market, I'm sure there will be a
350.
pent-up demand of like, hey, we'll pay whatever for it.
Probably.
So these are 2-story, each one is each unit is 2 stories.
yes,
So that rules out a lot of your older buyers too, which sometimes want this size, about this size. And that price, of course, I think everybody would love to have. That I don't look forward to, I don't think that'll be 250 by the time they get those,
It probably won't,
yeah.
but
And I know that we're trying to be sensitive to the neighborhood that's there, but let's just be honest, we want, that neighborhood is, we're expecting it to change. We want it to change. So
Yeah.
to me, as harsh as this may sound, we cannot be reliant on what's currently there. We need to think about what's going there for the next 50 years. And
If we're already not gonna
John,
be
if-
responsible and diverse.
Yeah.
If
it's not.
this, if I may add, one of the things with the ED agreement is they are supposed to do 80% masonry, or brick at least.
75.
so that takes me to my next question.
75 or 80?
So my next question, I looked at this, and I actually just got back from a trip in Indianapolis, which is another town that I see a lot of, probably gentrification, revitalization of neighborhoods within the downtown area. And I saw products like this. I was hoping that the rendering you showed me was not gonna be consistent across every single building, every single unit.
And let me,
I
if
think
I,
that takes away characteristics of what could be that neighborhood if you make every unit look the same. And I'm hoping that's not the answer that they give us when we ask them downstairs. I think if you're able to make some slight subtle changes to the facade, to the outside look of each unit, you create a little bit more customization, I think that would look better.
I don't
And it
want
would
to,
go in, I'm sorry, Shreep, and it would look really good with the custom homes that are gonna start to go in that neighborhood, because that's the one thing that we're seeing with all these demo rebuilds, you're coming up with unique, different looks, none of them are the same. Bonneau's out there, there's this new guy who went in there and did those modern looking homes, and then you got, Tom also building there, so they're different, everybody has their own look, and it's all dependent to who's buying the property, but I'm hoping that that's not gonna be the consistent look across the board on every single unit.
and this is something that they gave as a typical, like a fourplex for the zoning purposes, but we can surely talk to them about that downstairs when we go in the regular session, and they will come back for a detailed site plan, and that's when we can also look at further refined elevations, because this is just a typical that they provided with the zoning. And the ordinance gives them flexibility. We have laid out the building design standards saying that, okay, we have a list of these architectural features. You have to have at least 2 of these for each unit, but that does not solidify, okay, it has to be this particular look.
Okay.
Did I hear you say, so this is now gonna be 2 property owners?
Actually, it is gonna be sold to the developer.
Is the question, because with the 16 parallel, the 16 visitor parking in a busy time, I could see that getting full, and then parking would be obviously overflow into the retail. So it would certainly be nice for them to go ahead and now and establish a,
Parking agreement.
yeah, whatever they need to have there to, so that this doesn't become a.
Actually, that strip center pretty much does not get fully
It's-
parked.
It's 100, almost entirely vacant right now, but.
Yeah,
it
there's
doesn't
plenty of
mean-
It's not
spots.
gonna be that way,
That's what
yeah.
we're looking to change.
I just,
Yeah.
just looking ahead, you know.
Yeah.
And I think we run into this, you see each time, when you say we have so many bedrooms, you only get so many parkings and that's it. And then there's really no overflow, and it happens up that it's been on the street and everybody's yelling.
And look what's happening at the Rose Garden, at
Yeah.
those Rose,
Yeah,
Rose Creek.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
right. So I think that to ask them to plan ahead or do something now, really, I mean, not everybody's gonna do a parking garage like this, but even those people are parking on the street, they're not going up to the 4th level to park.
The other thing too,
But
we gotta be
this-
aware is there's not much we can ask them to do, right? I mean, there's not
room.
real estate for them to put in more
I
parking,
think
so we gotta be
the
aware of
reason
that.
we push for urban style townhomes, and this is where we go back to the parking every time. Each of these units are coming with 2-car garage. So I know that by habit, people tend to not put cars in their garage and put junk. But
Yes.
hopefully with the small square footage, each of these homes are not gonna be like a family of 4 and having 2 or 3 vehicles. Hopefully these townhomes will have 1 or maybe max 2 vehicles. And if they can park in their garages, that 16 parking spaces for guests should help, at least I see in immediate future. If not, they can always work with the commercial property owners, but encouraging more and more parking to infill projects, there is not land left to go and ask for more and more parking.
I agree with that.
So in that land that we do have that, over for the strip center, which is empty, the whole 1/2 of that back, right, John?
Pretty much, yeah.
Who owns that? Oh, I know who owns it, yeah. Same guy, so he wouldn't be willing to put in a parking garage, would he?
It was a miracle we got, this was not his idea.
Yeah.
He was happy just letting it sit there vacant.
You know, he wanted to put public storage units.
Oh, okay.
He was pushing forward with, zoning, he was gonna come forward with zoning case for public storage units.
Wow.
I will say, to the point earlier, if we are thinking, to your point, 50 years in the future, I think parking becomes less relevant. And so I would argue that we have sufficient parking.
I agree. Oh, parking.
New urbanism.
People will get dropped off. Uber.
We have
Uber,
DART, for
drone,
crying out loud. How many cities can?
Let's not say that out loud, Dart.
It's that with the Kestrel place, they're gonna, the HOA is gonna take over responsibility for maintaining that.
Yes, so the
How much
private
traffic
streets.
happens down there now? I mean, I know it's just sort of a weird, dead area, but will this in any way sort of start to create a more, where people might be cutting through there more often, to where that's more of an active street than it is now?
Because right now it is open, and I'm glad you brought that question up, because I was asked that same question by the Mr. Devise with the Tarpless HOA. The way I saw it is, right now it's open for this neighborhood, people down on Wilmington. If they want to drive through Lineville and go across the strip center to cut through and go to Josie, they can do that now. What we are adding here is this 42 townhome homeowners. For them, what's the convenience way to go to Valley View or Josie? That's the route they're gonna take. And it's, in terms of traffic counts, right now, the property is zoned commercial. So as John is mentioning, at any day, they can bring a much more intense commercial development in this property versus what we are seeing now with this zoning change is a residential use, which would probably produce less trips versus if we were to develop this in a true commercial fashion, which is allowed by right. But I also encourage the gentleman to attend the public hearing tonight because the applicant will be present tonight, and I have told them that there will be questions on traffic counts and drainage and all that stuff. So they would have those traffic numbers available.
As the oldest person in the room, which I can't believe I'm saying that, who's lived here 60 years, I will say for at least 35 years, the Four Corners has been a topic of conversation with P&Zs and many councils before us. And, you know, it's a difficult area. I mean, when the Walmart came, there was controversy, is that the right grocer? Because there were 3 other grocers there before that. And when the Walgreens came, kind of the same thing. And now here we are, this bank conversation, I know has gone on the past 2 or 3 city council elections, 10 years at least. I know when Norwood and Baumgartner were running the first time 7 years ago, this was a conversation of a potential area for senior housing. So just in my time serving on this commission, I've been waiting for something to come here. And so this is much better than public storage for sure, and is exciting that it will revitalize the area, like Gio's saying, that the area is under this extensive change. So it's exciting to me. I like what I see. I agree that if we can change some of the facades to where it doesn't look like it's institutional housing, that would be good.
Right.
I hear the parking conversation. You know, I think the other way. Man, if we could just be where Mr. Clausen was in here begging us to figure out how we solve his parking problems, because there's so many people that are parking over on that other side. Wouldn't that be awesome? And that's not the case. In fact, I will say the city, you know, they did a facade grant 15 years ago to get that other side to look the way it looks now. And from what I understand, the city that was not easy to get him to even agree to take our tax dollars to redo the front of the buildings that were 60 years old. So, you know, you've got a property owner that that doesn't maybe have the same vision that we all do. As you guys remember, a month or two ago, we had the case of the restaurant going in to replace the savings and loan there. And so it's happening, it's just, it's slow. It's like a slow drip or a slow leak. So this is exciting because it is a nice chunk of real estate that's quite a significant change from a dormant building that's been empty for, I feel like 10 years. I don't know if it's how long it's been, but you know, the windows are boarded up now because of what happens when the building sits empty for that long.
It's a continual homeless problem too, because
Yeah.
it's not visible from very many areas, and so you have folks that are sleeping around the back side of that. Of course, that upsets neighbors, but it's private property, so we can't go unless those individuals have been asked to leave. So we're having to hunt down property managers to go out. Anyway, it's a continual problem, and there's not a great answer for it.
What I think I heard you say, Sarupa, is that the homeowners association for the townhomes that are to the south, is that right?
No, so what I meant was the private streets that you see within this development, like Ravenway and Kestrel, these segments are gonna be maintained by a homeowners association that's gonna be comprised of the townhome.
Right. But there's a townhome,
Terra Place?
yes.
Or what's a condo?
Townhome what?
The Terra Place.
Terra
Oh, oh, yeah.
Condominiums, townhomes,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call them, that are also sort of in revitalization, just like houses, you know, they're not, no one's really tearing them down to rebuild them, so the bones are good, I guess is what I would say, but they're renovating the insides, you know, one owner at a time. If you drive through there, the homeowners association has taken, I feel like, I hadn't driven through there in 40 years. And I drove through there the other day and I'm like, wow, you know, they've painted, they've replaced things, the parking lot is in really good, I mean, this is horrible compared to what they've done in there.
And we participated with a grant
Yes.
that neighborhood development, some of those things.
For landscaping, I think. So that homeowners group is functioning the way it should. So my question is, did anyone approach them? Do we know what their thoughts are? I mean, I would think this would increase their property value compared to a dormant building that attracts,
I know we have advised ECM developers to reach out to
So
the.
that's a question for them?
Yes, and I believe they have, and as I was talking about the president of the Tara Place HOA, I have talked to him. He had reached out with questions.
Okay.
And I've talked to him, he was in favor of the project, he just had questions.
Great.
About traffic and drainage and all that. Also, the property owner, I received a call from the property owner of the bigger place, and actually, my phone call was encouraging because he couldn't come tonight, he's planning to attend the council meeting, but he was in favor of the project, of course, he has been intimately involved since ECM came on board, and he actually said that once this breaks ground, it would trigger redevelopment of the strip center. So we feel this is the direction in the right path, and hopefully this would trigger the redevelopment of the commercial properties that are partially not even leased.
When would they like to start construction?
Again, that would be a question for the developer, but I believe pretty soon as we get this through the finish line.
Any more comments, questions, thoughts?
Where are they out of again? Where's their headquarters or whoever
I
this
don't
is?
know. John, do you know where ECM are based off of?
They had a
Office in Arlington.
slide in there, yeah.
They have office location in Arlington, but if that's their headquarter or not, I don't know.
Have you looked at their other projects? Pictures of them and,
Yeah, their address.
see, this looks.
That looks
oh,
nice,
this
that's
looks good.
diverse.
Yeah, I like this,
A lot of
yeah.
stuff in the front.
Different elevations and colors and,
Yeah, I would agree. We need to add some colors and,
yeah,
if
yeah.
not, as a minimum,
You
some
know what
colors.
the solid white and the
and
black looks like?
architecture, yeah.
Yeah, the solid white and the black, you know what it looks like? A rehabber. This is what all the houses are coming out right now, all
Paint-
white
paint the
with
brick.
black, yeah, all painted brick, white, black. You can tell when a rehabber does it.
I had one question regarding the buildings themselves. Why did they just do one building that was 5 units and the rest were 4? it just space, or they, instead of all 4 units?
I believe it was.
4, 4, 4, or 5, 4, 5 kind of thing?
It was more guided by the, how many unit counts you can have. Like, these units were restricted by the way they are oriented.
Right, right.
Whereas these.
I just didn't know why they didn't split it up a little more in that front, in that.
Like, increase these
Yeah,
spacings.
like maybe the second building would be a 5, then a 4, then a 5. Maybe it's just a space thing, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or make them all 4 unit, I don't know.
If they make all 4, they lose 1 unit. I think that's the main gist of it. how
Right, or
much they
put
could
it, put the
fit.
5 unit in the middle, so you have the 2 floors on either side and a 5 in the middle kind of thing.
Yeah. That might be a great question for them too.
Yeah.
And I know there was a, I see there is
Was
a
that a
pavement
drainage?
here. Let me go to the site plan. So yeah, I believe there was some kind of a water line or something that's going through that
Can they
area.
just swap those 2?
We can ask that question, but these are layouts that have been vetted by not just planning, but public works and fire. I know what you're talking about, but there was a big issue about looping the fire line and how it was going through the building. So I don't know whether that played into that possible location of building 4 here versus here. I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay, so we need to move on because we have a work study review that we need to get through because I have a presentation to council on our behalf for that, and if we don't do it now, then we're gonna miss that, so. So everyone, those are great questions. Please be sure and ask them when the developer, after they make their presentation. And let's move on now to study session item A2, review and discuss the Planning and Zoning Commission's work program for fiscal year 2021-2022.
Thank you, Chairman. So after the budget adoption, every year, we go through and update the Planning and Zoning Commission work plan. And then David presents that work plan to City Council at a following City Council meeting. Every year, we compare our work program because they are all guided by this City Council strategic plan. That's published every year, and we adjust the goals based on the CBO outcomes. So the digital copy is part of your packet. However, I have some hard copy books if anyone is interested. And I can get more copies if anyone would like to keep a copy for there.
So these literally were bound, I'm gonna say, in the last week, because for those of you who don't know, the process is the council goes through the budget, then they approve the budget, and the budget is based on a revised strategic plan, and until they approve the budget, they can't print up the strategic plan. So council approved the budget like, let's say, in September, and then, staff went to work to start to print these out. So that's why they're not in a big supply.
So, these 9 critical business outcomes are listed on your screen, and I have underlined and highlighted the ones that are very directly related to our work program. The CBO1 ensures strategic planning alignment to current status of city's mission and vision. CBO2 improve access to responsible and diverse housing. And then going down the list, CBO8 is, of course, implementation of the recommendations for I-35 corridor vision study. Then on the next page of the book, as you can see, is the Farmers Branch strategy map. The reason I listed that is our strategy map shows how to accomplish the city's mission and kind of gives you the big picture objectives. Is the city's key focus areas, and the 4 strategic objective categories are serve our customers, manage the business, provide financial stewardship, and promote learning and growth. Each of these individual ones have outlined detailed kind of action items, if you will. And there are some very specific ones that directly relates to planning work program. For example, under Manage the Business, under B2, it says enhance service delivery through continual process improvement. And the two items listed there that are directly related to us are assess the current plan review process to provide better timelines and processes to applicants. Then research and review legislature and make policy changes in accordance with law changes and Texas best practices. That's an ongoing action item, like what we went through with the material legislature last year. Then B5, adhere to the strategic management system, develop a citywide comprehensive plan. That was part of the annual budget that was adopted. Complete a station area code expansion/update. Adopt revised standards within the comprehensive zoning ordinance pertaining to accessory dwelling units. Under serve our customers, C2, provide attractive, unique, and connected spaces for community interaction. Establish I-35E tax increment financing district. C5, attract and retain top-tier businesses to drive a unique and sustainable economic environment. Under those, we have complete the redevelopment plan for the station area, rezone target area 2, 3, and 4 of the corridor vision study, and create a multifamily development policy. Now, going through those, you will see how our commission's work program and the planning department's work program directly aligns with the strategic plan. So the number one on the list is, of course, adopt a citywide comprehensive plan. We're looking at a 2-year adoption period with the kickoff in spring of next year. It would be a similar process, what you went through with the I-35 corridor vision study. We'll go through a RFP/RFQ process to select consultant. Then we'll develop a steering committee. And in a way, it would be a bit more involved because the reason for citywide comprehensive plan was geared by our oldest and the westernmost comprehensive plan, the West Side. It was adopted in 2003, and it's really old, outdated, and have to be updated. We have added quite a few residents and homeowners to the West Side. They have a good voice, and their comments and their opinions have to be recognized, and the comprehensive planning process is a step in that direction. So with this overall citywide comprehensive plan, the consultants will look at very closely on the West Side plan, update that land use recommendations and land use plan for that area, because right now it does not match what is on ground. For the central and east side, of course, the central area is mostly residential and already developed. So the focus might be to review what we have in terms of our long-range plans and then come up with recommendations moving forward. East side plan, we're looking at a more infill-focused long-range plan and policy. So the citywide comprehensive plan is kind of the biggest project at this point on the books, and it would be going over for the 2 years adoption period. There will be town hall meetings and public involvement through website surveys and individual interviews. Then implementation of the recommendation from I-35 corridor vision study that's guided by our CBO 8. The first two, the TIF adoption is scheduled for fall of this year, actually next month. We are presenting that to City Council for adoption. It's a 25-year term for the TIF, so it's a long-term project. And then rezone target area 1, that's the first kind of under the implementation matrix of I-35 corridor study. That was the first zone or first target area to be redeveloped or to be focused for redevelopment. So we are going to kick off that project as well within the spring of 2022. And Linda, need one. Thank you, Brian. And who didn't have one? I think rest of them. Right? Everyone had a book? Okay, thank you. And we'll kick off in spring of 2022 and hopefully completion within 6 to 8 months. Then rezone target area 2, 3, and 4, they're going to come down the line over the following few years. Adopt a multifamily development policy. Kira is working very diligently on that, and we are planning to bring that to the commission in November and do a back-to-back meeting with City Council on November 16th as well. We are looking at a potential for quite a few new multifamily applications coming through the door, and we want this policy to be adopted before those applications come through our process. Yes.
So can you tell me exactly what goes into the development policy for multifamily?
So far, all the long-range planning that for the east side plan or the west side plan, wherever there was a district that said multifamily is recommended, it just said high-quality multifamily. So it did not give staff or developers any guidance as to what really means high-quality multifamily.
Right.
Is it density? Is it landscaping? Is it open space? Is it trails, sidewalk access, park access? What is it? So that's what we are trying to achieve through this policy, is gonna come up with a list of recommendations of, okay, what are we looking for when we see a new multifamily project? If there are like 10 or 12 or 15 things that has been recommended in this policy, then we are say, when we review a new multifamily application, whether it's a zoning or a site plan, we'll say, okay, are you really meeting all this, maybe most of the recommendations of the policy? And if they do, then that gives us the guidance that, okay, this is a quality multifamily project, that's something that the P&Z and council have looked at. And we have also worked on sending this draft policy to the bigger multifamily developers in the city. So they have had a chance to take a look at and give us their feedback, what they felt.
So I know that we've worked on that kind of stuff. Are y'all completing those things? Who inputs to this, what we want? Who's feeding into the?
Remember the joint?
I
Had a
do
joint
remember.
meeting.
So those, that's essentially, so and part of it said, we didn't know what some of those terms were, and
I
that's
think
what
they
we were
took all
deciding
the
on.
feedback and now
Right.
they're putting it into the
Okay.
big hopper.
Got it.
That's what
And
we are
working.
gonna bring back to
Okay,
you
okay,
in
that
the
was kind of my
upcoming
question,
meetings.
because that's right on us, adoption fall.
And then I think also what happens is as council meetings occur and different cases from multifamily come up, different council people throw out their opinions and there's conversation. So the staff is
Still
gathering
developing.
all that information and throwing it into the hopper to come up with what
Okay,
the development policy may.
that was my
or may
question,
not
good,
should be.
thank you, thank you.
So that references CBO2. You said the multifamily in the past was just said high quality and that wasn't defined. So
Right.
CBO2 now is responsible and diverse housing. So will we get a better definition of what that means within that too?
So that would be down the list also. It's one and both. So if you see number 4, which is adopt revised standards within the CZO pertaining to accessory dwelling units. So in a way, we did not want to attach the attainable housing component or affordable
Yeah.
housing component with the multifamily policy, because that was one school of thought. But what we at the staff level felt is that we want to get this multifamily policy adopted and out of the door, because we are getting that kind of interest in multifamily projects, and we need to have something on the books.
Right.
However, the attainable housing discussion is a much broader discussion. Just because we are getting the multifamily policy adopted doesn't mean that we are precluding that when we bring back the accessory dwelling units or the attainable housing discussion. It can also have a aspect saying the new multifamily projects, maybe a percentage of those have to be under certain market rate or something like that.
So
John.
all of that was coupled together, right, under CB2, and then it became very clear there is not consensus on attainable housing
Right.
and accessory dwelling units.
Right.
And as Sarupa mentioned, we're getting a lot of multifamily interest that's starting to come forward, and we don't want the commission and council to say, wait a minute, we talked about air-conditioned hallways and a minimum of 4 stories, and
Right.
why isn't that codified? So we're trying to say, this is where we seem to have consensus. Let's split those two. Let's get this done now and get ahead of all these applicants, and then we can come back with the attainable housing discussion and accessory dwelling units.
Good.
And that also lets us do the justice to the amount of research and work that has to be put into attainable housing, because that's a much larger topic. So did that answer your question? So moving down, the accessory dwelling unit, yes, that's listed that way, but it would probably morph into a larger discussion than just the ADUs, because that might become one of the tools or strategies that we use for attainable housing. Then revive landscape ordinance, I have that on the list and I talked to David about it. That's one of the desires we have, to somehow bring it back. And the game plan so far, what I have thought about is splitting the tree preservation ordinance and the landscape ordinance. That way, the landscape ordinance, there was a lot of good work done on that by the commission, by staff. I want that to be presented, and that way at least we can get that adopted. Because what we felt was the tree preservation section got us bogged down and pushed the whole ordinance back through the pipeline. So if we can get the landscaping section adopted, that gives me room to ask for more landscaping, just number of percentage of landscaping, because right now it's just like 5% or 10%, which is nothing. So that's important that we revive that, but we have to take care of some of the immediate tasks first before we bring that back. Update and streamline development review processes, and that's a continuous review, and it's on our list, and we'll work on it over this coming fall, and hopefully bring this back to commission for review and their feedback next year.
And part of that has happened, I will say, from my perspective, just in the merging of planning with economic development into one group, where they're all working together, and just the change, which is always difficult. As Sarupa was saying, she's carrying a lot of the load right now, but I think that's forcing Streamline. I mean, when you go through that process, so good things are happening from what I'm hearing.
Yes, so we are trying to streamline it to the point where, for example, these PDs, those are simpler PDs for residential projects, where if the PD is so detailed that you don't have to necessarily see a site plan, why are we making them come back to do a site plan? Things like that. That's what we're looking at, where we can reduce the review time period for applicants. The additional items, I know this was requested last year as well, update on the quality of life bond projects. So this is a very summary of what we have right now, the neighborhood revitalization program. There is $4 million bond, and those are two primary economic development projects that are ongoing, the demo rebuild program and neighborhood renaissance program. Then we have the Pike Street bond for the station area. One of the projects is I-35E betterment at Valley View and Valwood Parkway intersections that you all are intimately involved with or know about. And there are other projects that are in the pipeline but are being planned and worked on by Allison's team. And then the third one, the $7 million for parks and open space for John F. Park Nature Preserve. There is a big update work happening in the Nature Preserve. The B Street, we are planning on wider sidewalks north of Valley View, and then pedestrian crossings on Valley View Lane and Rawhide Drive at Valley View Lane, at Rawhide Drive and Tom Fields Road. Those are already done. I know, David, we had talked about this before, and the commission had asked for an update on the bond program. Again, this is a very summary format. If you want more detail, I can give that back to you in a future meeting, but I have to work with the individual department heads to get more information in terms of what exact specific projects have been taken care of, what is remaining, and what is coming. Then additional items, I'm not gonna get into too much detail. Council have asked for a new urbanism presentation that I'm right now working on, getting a speaker list together and the timing. Once I get that more ironed out, I'll bring that back to Planning and Zoning Commission to you all to take a look at, because I'll invite all of you to attend that as well, if your schedule permits. Then the bus tour, right now, due to staff shortage, I just don't have the capacity to plan the bus tour this fall. I was really hoping I would be able to, but I just don't think it's feasible to plan. The bus tour, I'm gonna bring item next meeting with some discussion points in terms of, I know last time we talked about it pre-COVID, Commission wanted to look at not only projects outside, but also projects inside, like the recently completed projects. So one idea was if we want to split it and do the 1.5 day or few hours for the cities inside projects, and maybe some commissioners would like to be on that, and someone might say, well, I can go there and look at those at my own time and I don't want to be part of that tour. We can do it that way, and then do a separate day for the outside projects where everyone can fit in that schedule and go to see other projects outside the city. So I'll bring a list of potential locations that may be looked at for this bus tour. And well, you all can also give me a list of places that maybe you are interested in looking, any of the recent projects that you have seen gone through the approval process but want to just tour and see how it really looks on ground. Those are the ones we'll be looking at. And also with the new comprehensive plan down the line, we will be looking at some of the TOD projects in the region, Parking has always been a hot topic, so those are some of the things we'll be looking at. That projects where it's close to transit stops or close to more infill projects, more entertainment sites or entertainment districts. That's what I'm thinking for the bus tour, but I'd love your feedback at the next meeting when we discuss this more at length. Then the quarterly update and the monthly update, those are ongoing, and I'll bring back an update next meeting, because last month we just had one meeting, I didn't have a lot of projects for update. So that concludes my work program presentation. Do you see anything that you'd like to add for the work program? I know we are short on time,
I don't
but
want to add to anything, but I do want to make a comment. So I think that we as commissioners and for going back to my comment about the trees and the plantings that we have on site for some of the apartment buildings, I think that it would be a good idea for us to try to visit as many of those as we can, all of us, and just see what you think it looks like. What do the trees look like that are planted in front of the
Close to the
apartments, and how big they've grown and over the last 2 or 3 years? We've got, stuff close here, and hopefully that us that have been on here, we know what we've worked on. But I think it is important for us to see what those projects look like that we did 3 years back, or 4 years back, or 2 years back, or 1 year back, on what we are okaying. Are we satisfied with what we're okaying? And maybe there's something that in this standards that's not the word I'm looking for, but
Landscape plan.
yeah, or some of those things, to see if we like what we've done before, and do we think that maybe we should add something and tweak a little bit of something, especially on the apartment complexes that are coming in the multifamily.
and it can be something very simple in the policy, saying it has to be a minimum so many feet away from a building.
Correct. So please go around, if y'all have in your spare time, look around. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarupa. That leads us to A3, discuss agenda items for future planning and zoning commission consideration. Does anyone have anything with that? I'm going to hand out these invitations. Everyone should have received an email from the city secretary, but it's just a reminder that the city hosts a board and commission appreciation dinner at the Branch Connection. This year it's on November 12th. It's a great time of fun. They will have a table or two for us and our significant others to sit together, and I would just encourage everyone to mark that on your calendar and try to come out. All the other boards and commissions will be there, and so if you aren't sure who's on the historical park or the library or whatever, that's a great time to see your friends and fellow citizens and say, oh, I didn't know you were on the whatever commission that is. And it's just a good time. And then secondly, Sarupa and Brian had sent out an email about the upcoming APA conference that is in Fort Worth this year. And I just would like to encourage everyone who can go to that. If you can, I know getting off work is a challenge. This year they have some virtual offerings. And even if you can only just pop in for 1 or 2 classes, it's well worth your time when we have conversations like we just had about density, for example, and that was something I remember the mayor brought up at the joint session about density of multifamily in various parts of the city. So if you want to have a great understanding of what all is embedded in that explosive word density, there's a course, or probably 5, about new urbanism and density in the millennial age, or they'll have some great course name for that. But parking is another great example where you hear Amber saying, looking forward, we won't need as much parking. Well, if you go to one of these conferences, as I have done several times, all the planners are saying that because of Uber and Lyft and all the car services and the whole environmental issue, the number of cars on the road is going to be reduced over a certain amount of time. And so, we're sitting here saying, oh, well, there's not enough parking because some citizens complained, 3 months ago that there wasn't enough parking in a development that was built 3 years ago. And the planners are looking 10, 20 years down the road and saying, we don't need as much parking. Well, that'll help explain where they're coming from and give you some great context for that. So anyway, I think if you just contact Sarupa or Brian and say, hey, I'm interested in some virtual classes or whatever, I think they do have to register you. The city pays for it. So I'm just telling you, it really is worth your time. You won't feel like you wasted your time. If you're interested in this, which I'm assuming you are since you're on the commission.
Thank you, David, for doing that. And yes, I cannot emphasize enough how beneficial it is. Most of the times they're not in town, they're out of town. This is after a long time, they're doing it in Fort Worth, the state conference, as well as this is the first year they're doing the hybrid, which is virtual and in person. So that's a great, great benefit. Like to have the ability to log in and just watch the workshop sessions live from your home. That's excellent. And another reason and exciting news I would like to share, and maybe that would also motivate you all to go, which is we are receiving 2 awards, City of Farmers Branch, from the APA conference, or at the APA conference. One for our I-35 Corridor Vision Study for Economic Development and Planning Gold Award, and then for the Parklet program, spearheaded by John and his team, we are receiving the Silver Award for the Resilience category. So I know we are all attending. David, Amber, Linda, you guys are attending. So there will be a table for the award recipients. John is going with us, and the mayor is also attending.
So congratulations, everyone. For those of you who were involved in the I-35 corridor study, if you recall, and those who weren't here, the council appointed us as the steering committee for that study, which was a big deal. I don't know that the city's ever done that before. The city hired some fantastic consultants, which made us look really smart. But we gave some really good input too, and the consultants went back and took that and worked with staff, and the result is our planning team, and I will say the P&Z has won this award, so that's really exciting, and compliments to everyone on that. We are 2 minutes over, so I have to adjourn, and we will be downstairs.
So you are gonna go?
Yes.
So are you gonna?